Welcome to another edition of Journey of Hope. Stories of people who share their journey. Many people come here from all around the world to Loma Linda, seeking health and healing and hope and wholeness. Every day when we wake up, we have no idea what lies ahead of us. Our special guests today are going to share an incredible journey and an impact that's been made upon them and upon people all around the world. Our special guest today is Bob Markini and his daughter Deb Hickey from Massachusetts. Bob, incidentally, was the very first interview that we had here on Journey of Hope. Bob and Deb, it's good to have you here. We have people from around the world. And I'm going to begin with you, Bob. Tell us a little bit about where you're from and where you went to school and where you were raised.
Well, Lynn, I was born in Cambridge, Massachusetts. My father was a cop. My mother was a telephone operator. Went to school in Massachusetts, went to high school and college there, became a chemical engineer, went on to get an MBA after that, and then...
Where'd you go to college?
Northeastern University.
Okay.
And then I did some graduate work at MIT at the Sloan School, and eventually got into chemical manufacturing management, and I spent most of my career there. And after I left chemical manufacturing management, I got into management consulting, and retired from that, and found my way to doing something connected with prostate cancer.
Okay. And Deb, tell us, you're also from Massachusetts. I'm assuming that you've been on the East Coast all the time, Bob.
That's true.
Okay, so Deb, you were born in the East, and tell us a little bit about your background, where you went to school, and what you've been doing.
Well, I've lived my whole life in Massachusetts. I just couldn't leave my family. So I've lived in Sudbury, Mattapoisett, Needham, and eventually went on to Simmons College in Boston, stayed close to home, and I majored in psychology. I knew I wanted to do something with people, make a difference. However, I also had the bug to do something artistic, so I went back to school at Clark University Career Center and received a certificate in graphic design. And then I went on to do marketing and graphic design for many years.
Okay. All right, so you've been on the East Coast the whole time, and married?
Yes, I am married.
All right.
My husband of 10 years. We just had our 10-year anniversary.
Well, happy anniversary. And Bob, you've got how many children?
I have 2 children, 2 daughters.
And you've been married for how long?
44 years.
44 years, okay. Well, you know, you were the very first person that I interviewed. Doesn't seem possible, but almost 80 programs ago. And you shared the journey, but we got a lot of people here that are watching now that didn't see that interview and don't know anything, but there's so much that's happened in the last 10 years. So tell us what happened 10 years ago.
Well, it was August 10th, 2000, and I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And at the time, I thought that was the lowest day of my life. Hearing that you have prostate cancer is a pretty nasty thing to hear. As I look back on it now, after what's happened in all these years, it turns out it was one of the best days of my life. Back then I was diagnosed. I knew I didn't want to have surgery for my prostate cancer because my older brother chose surgery. So I did an exhaustive amount of research, which started with the internet, libraries, everything I could get my hands on. But then I also interviewed doctors, physicians that represented all of the various modalities, the treatment modalities, ranging from surgery to seeds to cryo, liquid nitrogen, external beam radiation, and so on. And the more I did of this, the more confused I became, because each of the doctors was telling me that I was the poster boy for what they had to offer. I stumbled upon proton therapy in Loma Linda University Medical Center. I had never heard of either. And the more I learned about it, the more interested I became. And I started interviewing former patients. And
now, what do you mean you stumbled on it? We don't have anybody that stumbles into Loma Linda. But
well,
how did you stumble on to hearing about it?
Well, there was a higher power that actually directed me to Loma Linda and to proton treatment. I didn't know that
now,
at
just
the time.
for clarification, it's not only higher power, but you believe in God.
Of course.
You're a very active Christian, okay?
God has guided me every step of the way.
Okay.
At the time, I wasn't sure what God's plan was for me.
Sure.
Because I had just received this terrible diagnosis. But I had heard about this proton therapy, and I decided that the best way for me to learn about any of these treatment options is to talk with former patients. and I set out to speak with and interview former patients. And I interviewed dozens and dozens of them, including 56 patients that were treated at Loma Linda with proton.
We sent you out a list.
Yes.
You called one.
Well, it's an interesting story behind that, because the physicians and the hospitals that offered the other treatments wouldn't let me speak with their patients. And even anonymously, I couldn't speak with them. But when I contacted Loma Linda, they sent me a list of 30 names. And I wasn't even sure that I should trust that list back then, because I thought maybe they only sent me the success cases. So I prepared a list of 22 questions that I was going to ask everybody on that list that I could reach. And the last question on that list was, tell me about 2 or 3 people that you went through treatment with so I can call them too. So I ended up speaking with 20 people that were on that list and about 36 people that weren't on that list. And what I heard from every one of them was that they had an extraordinary treatment at this place called Loma Linda, that they have a philosophy, a mission that is to make man whole. And they treat you physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And it sounded too good to be true. I still wasn't convinced. So I jumped in a plane, I flew out here, and I met with Dr. Carl Rossi and some of the staff. And it actually, my mission, my journey began when I drove into the parking lot and I was greeted by a security guard. And he made me feel so much at home. And then the receptionist at the desk, all the way through, the admissions people, the financial people, the insurance people. And when I sat down and met with Dr. Rossi and I toured the facility, I made my decision. And I called my wife back in Boston and I said, this is where I'm going to be treated. And it was the best decision I've ever made.
So you made your way out to California. What time of the year was this?
It was exactly 10 years ago now. It was October in 2000.
Okay.
And the weather was beautiful out here. We had a wonderful, wonderful 2.5-month radiation vacation.
I often hear people referring to it as a radiation vacation. So, I mean, were you sick during the time you were here?
No, no. In fact, my friends back home were sending get well cards and flowers, and I would prefer that they send me tennis rackets and golf clubs, because I was wearing mine out. But I was tanned, I was healthy, I never felt any fatigue, never felt any significant side effects, and we had just a wonderful time. My treatment was 7:20 in the morning. By 7:35 I was finished, and by 8 o'clock my wife and I were working out in the Drayson Center, and then we would play for the rest of the day.
Well, Deb, you're back home, and your dad's been diagnosed with cancer. What kind of an impact did this make on you?
Well, I mean, anytime you hear the word cancer, you know, especially if it has something to do with a loved one, it's horrible. However, you know, I have a father who doesn't like to make his family worry. So when he told us, he sort of downplayed it. I was about to get married. He was diagnosed in August of 2000. I was getting married in October. So he really downplayed it because he knew that I was focused on my wedding, and he didn't want me to worry, and my sister as well. But of course I did, but not as much as I probably would have had I known exactly what prostate cancer was. But then, you know, he had told me about the proton treatment, and I knew that my father does his homework. He's a recovering chemical engineer.
I don't think he's recovered. But
he is a researcher, and he's the smartest guy I know. So I knew that if there was a treatment out there that could, you know, make him better, that he would find it, and he did.
Well, when you were kind of joking about being a recovering engineer, but I find, Bob, as you would well know, that when the engineers show up here, they come with notebooks of material and charts and graphs and statistics, and they got it all calculated out. And I know that Bob is still in the recovery process from that. Well, Bob, when you were out here, you had this experience, and then it led you to writing a book. Tell us a little bit about that. I mean, I've got the book here, You Can Beat Prostate Cancer. But tell us, you know, about the book, because it says here, this is the book you wish would have been available. And it's been a phenomenal book and inspiration to so many people.
You're exactly right, Lynn. When I was diagnosed and I was going through my due diligence, the more research I did, the more anxious I was, because everything I found, everything I could lay my hands on, represented books and articles written by physicians, They were highly technical in nature, and I found that they tended to promote whatever that physician or that facility, that hospital offered.
Sure.
So it didn't answer my questions. In fact, I was more anxious the more research I did. And as I gathered information, I became more comfortable. The more I learned, the more comfortable I became. But it occurred to me that if somehow I could take all that I did, and I literally put in hundreds and hundreds of hours of research, if I can put that into a manual of some kind and make it available to men and their spouses and their families who have been diagnosed with prostate cancer, then I can probably save them a lot of the anxiety and fear and whatever that I went through. So that was my objective when I started it. I started in the early 2000s, finished it around 2006, and I published it in December of 2006, and it has been one of the top 2 best-selling books on prostate cancer for the past 4 years.
Well, you were here in 2000, 10 years ago. Okay, and there was a little group of guys, like there always are, that are going through here, and you got acquainted with them. And as it was about time for you to leave, you wanted to stay in contact with them. So what did you do?
What I did was I suggested to the 6 of us, we were all scientists and engineers, all of us were interested in the technology. We knew that when we walked out the door that you don't walk out technically cured, but your cancer cells are programmed to be cured. They're programmed, it's called apoptosis. And that over the next 2 or 3 years, things would happen. Our PSA would drop, and there was the possibility that we might experience some side effects, most likely temporary. We wanted to kind of compare notes. We also wanted to stay connected with Loma Linda. Back in those days, I met you. I wanted to stay connected with you, frankly. And I figured that if we could form some kind of a group, stay connected with each other, share information, stay connected with Loma Linda, then that could help our healing. So I suggested that we do this, and I jokingly referred to our group back then as the Brotherhood of the Balloon. And the significance of the balloon is that during treatment, a small balloon is used, it's inserted in the rectum, and it's used to inflate the rectum and to immobilize the prostate during treatment. And that helps in the treatment process with proton radiation.
So they were called the Bob. I mean, that's what you were going to call yourselves. And I remember we talked about whether you ought to change that name, but it became a badge of courage, and there's no way the men wanted to change that. So you start off with a little group of about 6.
We did, and you back then recognized that this was something more than a few people that just wanted to share information. That this could be something very important. This could provide a longer-term focus, longer-term healing, and a longer-term benefit to the patients. And suggested to a few that were in treatment while we were in treatment that they contact me to join this new group that had just been formed. So when my wife and I flew back in December after my treatment ended, we had 19 members.
And you're going home, and how am I going to stay in contact with them?
Yeah, I said, gee, I had volunteered to keep 6 men in touch with each other. I had not really volunteered to keep 19 people in 13 different states all connected with each other. This sounds like it's going to be a lot of work.
Well, I saw, as I remember talking with you about this, what a wonderful opportunity for patients to stay connected with each other and with the institution. And so you went home, and you have about 19 people, and we began talking about it. Well, that was 10 years ago. Tell me what's happened since then. How many members do they have in that now, Deb?
About 5,000.
Yeah, 5,000. In fact, just this last weekend, the 5,000th member was recognized. So where are these 5,000 members from?
Well, as it turns out, Lynn, we have members in every state in the Union here in the United States, and we have members in 28 countries around the world. And we have reunions in different parts of the world. We have people that get together. And as part of our mission, we help to promote proton therapy around the world.
So the Bob organization has grown from a little group of 6 to 19 for a few states to now all 50 states to 27, 28 countries around the world. And Deb, you have become a part of helping Bob. I mean, you know, Bob's working around the clock, and you know, every time I call him, I can just visualize, you know, he's got a phone growing out of his ear, and he's sitting there at the computer, and I would imagine pretty soon his hands are going to, you know, get all crippled up because he's working. Because I know people from around the world are calling you, and as you look at just the people that you've used as resources and references here in the book, I mean, just some key people from around the world. But Deb, what are you doing now? Because you've recently come in to help Bob with the Bob organization.
Yes, well, I actually am now working full-time. I left my job of 11.5 years because though my father is 150% passionate about what he does, he's working 24 hours a day. He's barely sleeping. He's up at 3 a.m. So, you know, my purpose here is twofold. I mean, one, as I said, I've always wanted to make a difference, and I feel like working with the Brotherhood of the Balloon and these many, you know, cancer survivors and connecting them and helping them and supporting them and giving back to Loma Linda is making a huge difference. At the same time, I get to spend a lot of time with my father, give him back some of his time. You know, maybe he can go out and enjoy a golf game, something like that. So I'm really doing a lot of everything, maintaining the database, keeping up with new members as they come in. We send out a monthly newsletter that is quite comprehensive, and I am able to...
That newsletter's been going out for how long, Bob?
10 years, once a month for 10 years.
Once a month, never missed a month,
right.
Every month.
And this
so
is
you're part of that. It's a huge...
17, 18, 19, 20-page newsletter that's chock full of a lot of information, and I'm slowly taking over a lot of that to give him back some...
How about the work you're doing on the website?
We're trying to enhance the website, enhance the member database that is, you know, it was built back in 2000, I believe, and that needs to be updated and maintained. And
so what is the website?
The website is protonbob.com.
Protonbob.com. And Bob, how many hits are you having a month?
About 10,000 visitors per month, probably 100,000 hits.
100,000 hits and 10,000 visitors. Okay.
Yeah, and most of these visitors are not our members. They're people who are searching their treatment options. They're doing their due diligence. So we're helping them discover proton therapy in Loma Linda.
Well, tell us a couple of, 2 or 3 of the goals for the Bob organization, the Brotherhood of the Balloon.
Well, we started out, Lynn, with one goal, and that was just to stay connected, support each other, provide information, and that kind of thing. Maybe a year into our existence, we added a second, which is to promote proton therapy worldwide. We realized that this is clearly the absolute best treatment in the world for prostate cancer and other diseases. Our focus was prostate cancer. But yet,
it's just one of, you know, 40, 50 different types of tumors, 100 different tumor sites.
But we also realized that 200,000 men just in the United States alone are diagnosed with prostate cancer, but only 1/4% are discovering proton therapy. And the rest are choosing other treatments that are causing them some harm because of side effects. So we said we can't just sit by and let that happen, so we added that to our mission to promote proton therapy worldwide. And then maybe a year or so after that, we came to another realization, and that is that we have been given a gift. We've been given the gift of life, and we've been given the gift of preservation of the quality of our lives. And in order to get that, people did a ton of work before us. The doctors, the caregivers, the researchers, the scientists here at Loma Linda, and the people who contributed to them, some of their time, some of their money. And we felt that we were the beneficiaries and that we had a responsibility to give something back. So we added the third component to our mission statement, which is to give something back to the institution that saved our lives and preserved the quality of our lives.
And I mean, what's been happening in the last few years now? I know the Bob has had a significant impact upon the research efforts that are going on here. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I think we've had a tremendous impact in 2 specific areas. One is in introducing patients to Loma Linda, and in the past few years, we know we have introduced in excess of 1,000 members. Roughly now, about 500 or 600 members per year are discovering Loma Linda and coming here for their prostate cancer treatment. And secondly, when we initiated our giving back program as part of our mission statement. We have found that our group has been responsible for contributing about $6 million to Loma Linda for proton therapy
And we
research.
want to thank you for that. $6 million. I know they started what was called the James Slater Chair. I believe that chair has over $5 million in it, and a number of other areas have been developed. I knew there's a new Bob Fund that's been established by a former patient in your honor, and so there's a Bob Fund. And I know one of the goals during this last year, coming up on the 20th anniversary, the Bob organization, one of your subcommittees, had a goal of doing what? And tell us what happened.
Well, we got together a few months ago, Lynn, and we decided that we wanted to do something special for Dr. Jim Slater, Dr. Jerry Slater, on the occasion of the 20th anniversary of the Proton Treatment Center. So we said, what could we do that would be meaningful to them? And we decided that we knew that both Dr. Jerry Slater, Dr. James Slater have a passion for proton therapy research. We know that although they treat 50, 60, 70 cancers and 100 disease sites today, that there are many more, that they want to bring proton therapy to the next level. We also know they want to reduce the cost of proton therapy so that many more patients can be treated. In a conversation I had with both Dr. Slaters recently, I found that they both believe that they've only scratched the surface in terms of all the good that can be done with the proton particle. So we decided that we'd like to present them with a gift for proton therapy research.
At the anniversary?
At the anniversary celebration on the 24th of October. So we asked our members to contribute. Deb was a part of that subcommittee.
5,000 members strong.
5,000 members strong. And by the way, 5,000 members that represent not only Loma Linda University Medical Center, but the other operating, 7 operating centers in the United States. All of them contributed to this gift because they knew that their treatment at Mass General Hospital, MD Anderson, University of Florida, all of those other institutions, their treatment would never have been possible if it weren't for the work that was done here at Loma Linda by the Slaters. And we were very happy to present to Dr. Jerry Slater and Dr. Jim Slater a check for $500,000.
$500,000, a check that was presented at that time. What a profound impact it had on Dr. Slater and on the listening audience. I mean, it was apparent as they all of a sudden the check is unveiled, and $500,000. I mean, during the last few days, I've had a number of people come up and say, "Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Were you surprised?" I said, "Well, no, I kind of knew a little bit about it since I'd been working behind the scenes."
Oh, yeah.
But what a profound impact that had. And again, that's just the beginning. I know that you. What is your dream really?
Well, we know that both Dr. Jim Slater and Dr. Jerry Slater have a dream, and that dream is to establish 20 endowed chairs for proton therapy research.
And an endowed chair is like a permanent endowment for research.
Right, and a chair, the target for each chair is about $5 million. That's $100 million. I personally believe that our group is capable of funding, at a minimum, 1 chair per year. Now, that may not happen this year, it may not happen next year, but the time is coming in the not-too-distant future when our group will be funding 1 endowed chair every single year.
Yeah, I mean, the way the Bob has been growing and the way that people are responding, and even the response during this, you know, you just had a couple of months that you wanted to raise this $500,000 has been phenomenal. And now, you know, Bob, I know that you're very active in the Catholic Church, and as you started this 20 years ago, or 10 years ago, I said, you know, Bob, this is a ministry, and it's a very active ministry. Now you're part of that ministry. What kind of an impact is it having on you? You're interacting with some of these patients.
I am absolutely honored to work with these people and you know, promote proton therapy, the treatment that saved my father's life, and even coming here for my first visit to Loma Linda, and I met some of the members that are on the council and some of the men that have received proton therapy that are part of the Brotherhood of the Balloon, and they are some of the most wonderful people I've ever met in my life. And I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
They are an amazing group. And Bob, you know, we're talking about prostate cancer, and your book is about prostate cancer, but proton therapy and the future, the impact that's going to be made around, not on women and children and some of the diseases that, that we haven't been able to deal with yet that will be treated effectively. What is the future for you in terms of the bomb? Where do you see it going? We've got just a couple of minutes left here.
Well, we know that we want to continue doing what we're doing. We want to expand our outlook. We want to invite members to join us from the other institutions that are opening up. Our primary focus is Loma Linda, so we want to try to grow the number of members that join us from the Loma Linda ranks. And then our intent is to focus on those three mission statements: to support each other, to promote proton therapy, and to give back, with a strong focus on giving back, because I think we have a significant capability of doing that, and I think we've just scratched the surface.
I think we have. We got just a couple of seconds. What difference has having cancer made to you?
It's changed my life in total. It's changed the focus of my life. My wife and I are much stronger spiritually than we ever were. My wife actually converted to my faith after her experience here. We are much stronger in our faith. And what's important to us is very different today than what was important to us in the past. Our connection with my daughter Deb, my daughter Susie, is much stronger today, all because of this experience of Loma Linda and this diagnosis.
What you're saying, and getting cancer really has had a very positive impact upon you and on your family.
August 10th, 2000 turned out to be one of the best days of my life.
The day that you were diagnosed and found out about it.
Yeah.
Well, again, for our listening audience, Bob and Deb, it's been so good to have you here and to watch the phenomenal growth of what's happened with the Bob and the impact, Bob, that you and now Deb are going to have around the world. And we've got people from all around the world that are coming, that have been impacted by people that have read your book, that have heard about Loma Linda, and many of these people now are helping to make a difference here at Loma Linda, not only because they've been here, but now they're grateful patients and they're helping out with the research efforts. So I want to thank both of you for being on the program here with Journey of Hope and for what you're doing to make a difference. Again, for our listening audience, Bob and Deb are just wonderful illustrations about people that have been impacted by the healing ministry here at Loma Linda. And I am Lynn Martell with Journey of Hope. Until next week, God bless you each one.